Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what I personally foresee coming next, for NVIDIA stock, and yeah, I'll just give you my thoughts moving forward. So far, we've been actually nailing NVIDIA moves pretty well. I'm actually very much enjoying trading NVIDIA lately. I feel like the stock is pretty nice to read. It doesn't feel too difficult to read. I'm liking the stock quite a bit ever since I started trading it not that long ago. Yeah, I'm liking it quite a bit. Anyways, let's just jump into it. If you enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. That link is down below in the description of this video. For $2.99 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, post updates on Tesla stock, and just a broader market as a whole. And sometimes I'll give other stocks as well. Like today, I gave another one for Oxy. And so far, it's up actually from my entry, which is great to see. And of course, I talk about NVIDIA for $5 a month. So you get access to all that plus NVIDIA for $5 a month, where I pretty much told my members we pretty much timed the bottom on this entry on NVIDIA as it was retesting this rising wedge. And so far it's up from that as well, right? I think maybe I even made another one down here, right? Down here and over here, right? Pretty much beautiful retests. And so far you can tell that it's up from that level. But all that being said and done, let's jump into it. NVIDIA closing the day down, unfortunately, 2.2%, we'll say, closing the day down at 121.35, which is going to be a bit of an underperformance compared to the market off of SMCI worries, I guess you can say, and I don't know, drama, for lack of a better word. So let's talk about it, right? What does NVIDIA look like moving forward into next week and into potentially September? So this is pretty interesting stuff, right? So let's talk about that. So NVIDIA, let's do the short term first. I actually think short term is a more bullish and longer term, well, daily, I guess. Short term, 1 hour chart. 1 hour chart, like I said, I told my members about this already, but now we're talking about it here. We're in a rising wedge, right? We're in this little bit of a rising wedge, which is technically a bearish pattern ultimately, because it usually breaks out to the south side. Not always, but usually. But, we're at the bottom of it. We came to right down to the bottom of it. And this is a very important level for us to hold. Why? Well, for the first reason is it's the bottom of the wedge. Bouncing off that is very, very important. And we did so far, which is nice to see. So as long as we pretty much hold this, I actually think I move back up to about 123-ish. Probably Monday, honestly, potentially Monday is in the cards. If not, and it breaks down below, well, I'll have stop losses pretty much above my entry price. So at least I'll make some money on it regardless, because now I'm pretty much, I can't lose on this trade anymore after this entry with this rising channel or wedge. So that's good. But let's go to the 4 hour chart. This is where things are a little bit more interesting. We're going to go ahead and turn on some indicators here. That's the wrong one. And now it looks a little bit more confusing, but let's talk about why this level was so important, right? So we had that massive retest on the daily, right? Obviously, we had that rejection from the top of the trend line. And then on the 4 hour chart, what we did was we pretty much came right back down to the bottom of the wedge, which we talked about on the 1 hour. But we're also retesting what was a resistance back here at around, 119.5 to 120, right? Several times we rejected it until we got that nice long candle right here, broke above it and went even higher. And now we're back down to retesting that range. And so far we're holding, which is a good sign to see. On top of that, pretty much right where we bounced off of, you can see we bounced off both of these lines right here, almost to perfection. What are they? The yellow one, 21 EMA, as you know, on the 4 hour is also pretty powerful for NVIDIA. NVIDIA rarely loses it and also respects it on the 4 hour. So watch for that too. But the white one is going to be, of course, the 23-day moving average, which is part of my bands, which is essentially that reversion back to the mean, which is exactly what it did and held to perfection, which is what I like to see. So again, the way I look at it is this. Unfortunately, I don't think NVIDIA actually has that much steam left, right? I do think it actually still looks a little bit weak here. I actually do think that there's a chance that it moves down lower because most of my indicators are signaling momentum is being weak, which is why I think a move back up to 123, 124 is potential. There's potential for that. Monday, maybe even as well. Best case scenario is a retest back up to this trend line, which will pretty much put it back up to about the 125s roughly. But I'd be surprised if we see too much more than that, because again, it does look a little bit weak to me. And let's go over why I think that is. And let's talk about that bearish aspect as well. Let's go back to the 4 hour chart really quickly, actually. The 4 hour chart, you can see, right, the MACD is starting to, soften up, starting to curl, lower highs, right? It's still bullish, it's still crossed there, but if this crosses back down, that'll be definitely more confirmation, right? RSI is below the median line as well, you can see, so it's a little bit on the weaker end. Stochastic with the bearish crossover pointing straight down. And we have the BX trender also pretty much pointing straight down, lower lows, red band. So there are definitely some signs of, potential concern over here on NVIDIA, right? Especially if we lose this channel or rising wedge. If we lose this rising wedge in the 21 EMA, pretty much all sitting right around 119, we'll say, or low 119s, that will most likely confirm it. especially if we lose or if we close a 4-hour candle below these levels, right? If we close a 4-hour candle below these levels, it's probably confirmed. And in my opinion, NVIDIA will most likely have a pretty weak October, at least for the first few weeks or something like that, until it makes its move. Ultimately, in my opinion, back down all the way down to probably 110 to 108-ish. That'll be my overall projection, right? That's kind of what I'll be looking at. And you can see in the daily chart, similar idea, right? The MACD is still bullish, but obviously it's slowing down. This is the first lower high we printed on the MACD ever since this move up began not too long ago, which is a little bit concerning. RSI pointing straight down. Stochastic bearish crossover confirmed, right? BX trender, lower high. It's showing weakness, right? The weakness is setting in on NVIDIA stock, obviously most likely off the back tail of SMCI. So that's why, you know, I do lean bearish on NVIDIA, right? I'm actually slightly bullish, like very short term, like pretty much as early as Monday, but I do lean ultimately overall bearish on NVIDIA unless it can break above this wedge. If it can break above this wedge around 125, 126 and start closing daily candles above it, then I'll start potentially thinking otherwise. But right now, a lot of my indicators and just the chart itself does look a little bit bearish to me. And I do think it has a higher chance of moving down ultimately than up much, much higher. Again, the confirmation would essentially be at the very least a 4-hour closure, pretty much below the low 119s or just below 119 as a whole. A 4-hour closure below that would pretty much confirm that. And I think we would ultimately have a move lower in October, at least for the first couple of weeks or something like that, right? That's just the way I'd be looking at it. And that's just the way I'm eyeballing NVIDIA moving forward. Let's talk about the weekly because the weekly candle did officially close. So let's talk about that and, you know, just take a look at what it looks like, right? Same idea here. You know, actually, we'll take this away for now. You know, the weekly candle pretty much came right up to this trend line, also got some rejection. And, you know, the weekly is looking okay, right? The weekly is looking okay. It's still bearish on the MACD. Not really showing any obvious signs of curling down, right? So definitely still some work to do, but ultimately NVIDIA still looks okay on the weekly. Even I think if it comes back down lower to 110, I still think it looks pretty all right on the weekly chart. I don't think these indicators will move too much personally to the bearish side. So as long as we move down to 110, 108 and that holds, I actually think NVIDIA can potentially propel back upwards pretty damn nicely. And these weekly indicators won't actually get faltered too much, and then it'll look a lot more promising as well. We'll see, of course. We'll take it day by day and even week by week, right? But I don't think the weekly is telling me as much information as I would like it to right now, personally. It's other than the fact that we're in this tight wedge, the weekly is not giving me too much information, right? I think worst case scenario, NVIDIA moves back down to about 100, which is where that weekly support is. But the daily support on this wedge, in my opinion, can potentially only be around 108, 110, 17, 107, something like that. So we'll see. We'll take it day by day, but I do lean bearish. I'm not gonna lie, I do lean bearish on NVIDIA. I actually think there's a higher chance it breaks to the downside ultimately as it stands right now, but you all know the levels to look out for. 125 to 126 as resistance. Break above that, in my opinion, it turns back to being ultimately bullish. Under 119 on the 4-hour, and it's under 118 on the daily. Those are the levels to watch out for as potential support, but a breakdown below would most likely mean we do begin the flush downwards in what I believe can be a pretty spooky October. And yeah, that's just kind of how I'm eyeballing it, and that's kind of what I'm expecting. Options flow in NVIDIA, let's take a quick peek at it, right? Cheddar flow, great option service, by the way. If you're interested, definitely check it out. Definitely more bullish and bearish call flow today, but not by a substantial amount. So, I wouldn't put too much weight into it. I'll be honest, I would not put too much weight into it. I would look at the chart. The chart tells the story usually. And the story is telling me right now is the fact that momentum is weakening. It is what it is. I think best case scenario, NVIDIA pushes up one more time to 123. Best case is like 125. But even that, I wouldn't be holding my breath for. So let's see how it plays out. But again, you know the levels to watch for, the levels to break, hold, etc. Thank you all so much for watching. See you for the next one. Peace.